Imagine standing in complete, suffocating darkness, buried deep inside the earth, beneath 200,000 tons of cold stone. You can't see your own hand in front of your face. This room has been pitch black for 5,000 years. But then something happens. A single beam of golden sunlight slips through a hidden opening above the entrance. It cuts through the darkness like a blade, creeping slowly down the narrow stone corridor. And for exactly 17 minutes, the deepest chamber glows with golden light. The darkness is conquered. But here's the strange part. This isn't modern engineering. This structure was built 5,200 years ago. That means Newgrange, standing quietly in the Boyne Valley of Ireland, was already ancient when the first stone of the Great Pyramid of Giza was laid. It stood here long before the first stone of Stonehenge was dragged into place. How did a society with no writing, no wheel, no metal tools, build something with this kind of astronomical precision? And more importantly, who did they bury in the deepest part of this dark chamber? Because the identity of the person lying there could change everything we think we know about the history of Europe. Welcome to Vanished Truths. To understand Newgrange, we have to look at its scale. This isn't just a mound of earth. It's a massive, kidney-shaped structure, 280 feet across. Its front wall is dazzlingly white, covered in thousands of sparkling quartz stones. And here's the first strange thing. Those white quartz stones were carried from mountains 50 miles away. Tons of stone in an age without the wheel. But why quartz? Because quartz is no ordinary stone. When you press it, when you rub it together, it gives off light. Tiny sparks flash inside it. These people chose the most light-producing stone on Earth and covered their entire facade with it. Was it a coincidence? Or did they know something? When you step inside, you pass beneath a massive stone carved with hypnotic spirals into a long, Risen corridor. The roof stones are laid so perfectly that after 52 centuries of Irish rain, not a single drop leaks inside. The chamber is still completely dry. For a long time, historians looked at Newgrange and said, "This is just a tomb for chieftains." But Newgrange wasn't built for the dead alone. It was also built for the sun. Right above the entrance sits a small, square opening, easy to miss. Archaeologists call it the roof box. And pay attention, there's no other known example of such an advanced light window anywhere in the ancient world. It was made once and never repeated again for thousands of years, as if a piece of knowledge flashed for a moment and then was lost forever. So what was this roof box for? For most of the year, it seems useless. But the architects of Newgrange knew exactly what they were doing. They calculated the tilt of the Earth's axis, the precise angle of the sun at the winter solstice, the slope of the hill. Every year, on December 21st, the shortest, darkest day when the world feels like it's dying, the rising sun aligns perfectly with this opening. The light travels down the narrow tunnel like a laser, illuminating the deepest, darkest chamber of the monument. To Neolithic people, this wasn't just a calendar. It was a machine that conquered death. Proof that the sun was returning, that spring would come again, that life would overcome the darkness. And then, there's something even stranger. Some researchers have measured that this chamber resonates at a specific sound frequency, around 110 hertz. They say that when a drum, or a human voice, hits that frequency, the entire room vibrates. and that the same frequency has been found in other ancient structures, miles away. This is still a debated claim, but if it's true, it raises a question. Was this room designed not just with light, but with sound? During their rituals, inside the vibrating stones, beneath the golden light, what were these people experiencing? But now we come to the real question. Who did they bury in this chamber? Because it wasn't everyone. Inside, only the cremated bones of a handful of people were found, in great carved stone basins. And the burial was strange. The bodies weren't buried whole. First they were left to decompose outside. Then the bones were collected, broken, and carried in, a chosen few. An entire society built a massive monument and placed only a handful of people inside. Who were these chosen ones? In 2020, scientists extracted DNA from a man buried in the exact center of the monument. The result echoed through the scientific world. This man's parents were either brother and sister or parent and child. First-degree incest. Stop and think about what that means. In human history, this level of inbreeding appears almost exclusively in one place: dynasties that declared themselves half-gods, the pharaohs of Egypt, the Inca elite, ruling classes who considered their blood sacred and married only within their own families to avoid mixing with the common people. This is why some researchers ask, could Newgrange have been built by a sacred elite who declared themselves masters of the sun? 700 years before Egypt, on the green hills of Ireland. Did Europe have its own pharaohs? If so, the picture is this. The dead king is placed in the dark chamber, and on the holiest morning of the year, the sunbeam strikes his bones directly, symbolically reborn, made immortal, just as the Egyptians did with their pyramids, but 7 centuries earlier. But to be honest, this is still an interpretation, because other archaeologists push back. Perhaps that inbreeding was a single exception, and Newgrange was built not by a king, but by a large, egalitarian alliance of tribes who came together for a shared belief. 2 theories, still colliding. The man in the dark chamber hasn't fully given up his secret yet. So who were these people? Where did they come from? This is where the story becomes truly interesting. The builders of Newgrange were not native to Ireland. Before them, hunter-gatherers lived on the island for thousands of years. People who built no monuments, knew no farming. Then, something changed. DNA shows us this. The farmers who built Newgrange were an outside people, genetically different. And when you trace their origins, they lead to one place: Anatolia, modern-day Turkey. Because farming was first born there, in Anatolia. And the farmers who emerged from there slowly spread west over thousands of years, through the Balkans, Italy, France, Spain, and finally across the sea to Ireland. They carried not just their seeds, but a package of belief: watching the sky, honoring the dead, and that spiral symbol. Because that spiral, the hypnotic triple coil at the entrance of Newgrange, is not only in Ireland. The same style of spirals appears in France, in Malta, in Spain, in monuments of the same era, as if a single people, walking westward, carved the same signature into stone at every stop. Newgrange is the monument at the westernmost end of that long journey, on the edge of Europe, where the ocean begins, the final stop. Now we come to the part most channels skip. We won't. Because I promised you at the start, we'd separate what's evidence from what's guesswork. First, how do we even know how old this structure is? Here's an interesting fact. You can't carbon date stone. You can only measure a structure's age from the organic remains inside or beneath it. For Newgrange, those remains point to 3,200 BC. But here's an uncomfortable question. What if the structure is older than the bones buried inside it? A tomb can be used for centuries after it's built. So, technically, could these stones be older than we think? The honest answer: we have no evidence that they are. But we can't definitively prove they aren't either. That small gap is still there. And online, there are far bolder claims. Some say Newgrange is a remnant of a lost, advanced civilization, a kind of Atlantis. Others go further, talking about alien connections. These ideas are exciting. They fire up the imagination. But if we're completely honest, there's no evidence to support them. No advanced metal tools, no alien tech, no hidden machinery was ever found. And here's the strange thing. The truth is far more impressive than those fantasies. Newgrange was built with river stones, wooden levers, flint tools, and an unimaginable amount of human will. It wasn't aliens or a lost super civilization. It was human beings. Human beings with a connection to the sky that we, in the modern world, have largely lost. So what is the real secret of Newgrange? Perhaps its deepest mystery is one we'll never solve. We know for certain that these people track the winter solstice. It's very likely they gave the sun a sacred meaning. But we will never know the name of the power they worshipped, because they died before inventing writing. They left us not a single name, not a single prayer, not a single word. They built the most precise sun structure known to us, but vanished before they could carve the name of their belief into stone. All that remains are symbols, spirals. And once a year, on the morning of December 21st, when that golden light reaches the deepest part of the dark chamber, they speak to us across 5,000 years. Because perhaps the greatest secret of Newgrange was never in the stones. It was in the minds of the people who built it. And what was lost was not the structure, but that way of thinking. But I want to know what you think. Do you believe Newgrange was built by a peaceful community of stargazers, or by a mysterious class of pharaohs who declared themselves masters of the sun? Tell me in the comments. And if this surprised you, get ready for the next mystery. Because when we follow that spiral symbol at the entrance of Newgrange, it leads us across the ocean to somewhere you'd never expect. Never stop chasing the truth. I'll see you in the next one.